you decided to run over victim one, and you put your vehicle in reverse and went back and hit him, but you also hit victim two.
You took money from the victim's wallet and you went to a bar?
Yes, ma'am.
And we are about to watch the parole hearing for a man who in 2017 ran down two people intentionally, including one of them who was his longtime girlfriend. After he runs them over, killing one and pinning the other under the car, he calmly walks over, takes money out of their wallet, and goes to the bar. He can't make it up. Well, we're going to watch his parole hearing, and I'll unpack it with the details at the end.
My name is Stefan S DOC, and my inmate number is 417251.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Stefan S DOC, 417251. He is serving a sentence of 18 years flat for evading responsibility resulting in death, and negligent homicide with a motor vehicle. As of today, records reflect the parole eligibility date of June 17, 2025. There is victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed and shows he has completed voices, tier 2. He's enrolled in college and he completed a carpentry program. Utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system, the offender's overall score falls within the low range of risk for recidivism. Mr. Skirba, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. You may begin.
Okay. Thank you for your time and consideration and the opportunity to speak. I understand that parole is a privilege that only a few are blessed with. First and foremost, I extend my sincere apologies to Mr. Crane's family and friends. I've spent countless hours and sleepless nights processing the impact of my actions, and I'm so sorry for the unimaginable pain and suffering I have forced them to endure. Knowing that I am the source of their pain grieves my soul, and I pray that they may find it in their hearts to forgive me. I take full responsibility for my actions and inactions for not doing more. I have recently lost both of my grandfathers and often find myself thinking about Mr. Crane's grandchild growing up without a grandfather. These thoughts break my heart since some of my fondest memories were with my grandfathers. Knowing that I have robbed him of these memories is devastating. Words are wholly inadequate and could never express the extent of my sorrow and remorse, nor will they bring back Mr. Crane. One small consolation I can make is a promise I have made to myself and God that Mr. Crane's life will not be lost in vain. I had an addiction, and because of that addiction, life was lost. I promise to honor Mr. Crane's life by turning my life around and to use my experiences to make a positive difference in the lives of others. I live out this promise every day by tutoring others in school and helping those still struggling with addiction. Today, my addiction-free life is incredible. It is filled with meaning, purpose, a vision for the future, and long-term goals, everything I lacked in the past. I have earned many accomplishments in prison and discovered my passion lies in physics and mathematics. I've spent thousands of hours poring over college textbooks, and when granted parole, I will obtain my degree in aerospace engineering. I'm now a far cry from the person I once was. I see each day as filled with possibilities and opportunities as I look forward to my future. I also look forward to showing my family and friends the new me while helping them to grow and better their lives. I have turned what most inmates would call a negative experience coming to prison into a positive and the single greatest opportunity of my life. I appreciate your time in granting me parole, and I will make the best of my opportunity, and there are no excuses for my actions. Again, I do not expect forgiveness, but please accept my apologies. If you have any questions, I would be happy to address them now.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Serba, for preparing that statement. And we heard you express remorse for your victims, and you are absolutely right. This is a tragic case. We're happy to see that you have taken every opportunity to turn your life around, and we do in fact have questions after reviewing all of your information submitted. So what will happen is each of us will take turns asking you those questions. When we're done, we will deliberate and give you our decision. Oh, actually, we do have victim input. So when we're done with our questions with you, we'll turn the hearing over to our victim's advocate, Mrs. Williams, and you will sit there and listen and not interrupt. And then we will deliberate and give you our decision. Okay?
Thank you.
If you
Yep.
have any questions, you're welcome. Mr. Pohl will start with the questions.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Mr. Serba.
Good morning.
So the offense here, you were behind the wheel. I mean, it's not here, but based on what's your background, so you're more than likely using drugs at the time.
Yes, sir.
And what were you using?
Heroin.
And I have it that you're on 2 bundles a day.
Yeah, at least.
And so that's a pretty good habit, or not habit, but because it's not a habit. That's a great deal of use.
Yes, sir.
And in this particular case, what happened? I know that I read the official account here, but what happened there?
So I was at the house that day attempting to help Mr. Crane. He had called me and asked me to do some work on a truck that he had there. I went there to assist him, and throughout the he had asked me where the keys were to one of the vehicles, and I could not find the keys. He freaked out. He went in the house, grabbed a gun, came out, threatened both me and my girlfriend, put the gun to both of us and said he was going to kill us. He then instructed me to get in the truck and pull it in the back of the house because the key that was missing was for a separate van, not the truck. I was completely emotional, scared. I got in the truck. Instead of turning directly into the driveway, I kept going down the road, and I realized, wait, my girlfriend's back there. I slammed on the brakes and put the truck in reverse and to drive backwards. And I ended up sideswiping a vehicle, lost control. The truck spun around and struck both of them.
And it was very tragic what
Yes.
happened. So a great deal of that centered in substance use. And I know that the parole officer during the interview talked to you about a recovery plan.
Yes.
So can you talk a little bit more about that with us?
Yeah, sure. So upon release, I have a great support system of friends and family. I also plan on attending an NA meeting outside of Yale in New Haven. I plan on totally eliminating any old friends, people, places, and things. I'm just, and I have really a big part of my addiction so my addiction began as self-medication. I was discontent, depressed, wasn't happy with my life. Since then, I have found meaning and purpose, and that is going to be a huge part of my recovery.
Right. So it's great that you have family, friends. Are they, any of them in recovery?
Well, my father was an alcoholic. He hasn't drank for, I believe, like 25 or 30 years now. But
Meetings
no,
or anything like that?
No, he's been sober all on his own.
And
no one.
have you gone to any meetings inside?
Oh yes, yes. Throughout my entire bid, up until just recently. The meetings now fall in the evening when I have college courses. So,
Okay, but you were going to meetings.
oh yes, yeah, my entire bit.
So what would you do on the outside if you had, because you still want to continue to go to school? How about if, does college conflict with meetings?
No, I will make that work. Yeah, there's meetings all day long. Whether I have to hit a meeting in an afternoon one day instead of the evening, I will make that work. There are meetings all the time.
Have you tried to go at recovery before?
In the past, I've done some inpatient treatments. I believe the reason why I never attended meetings regularly in the past. This time around, everything is completely different. My outlook on life, like I said, that meaning and purpose that I now have. Yeah.
Where'd you go to inpatient?
I went to one time, I believe it was the App Center in Bridgeport. I did one at Holbrook I believe that's in Fairfield. And then I also went to, there's one in Middletown. I forget what it's called.
Rushford?
It's across from there. It's in that same complex. CVH,
Edgar
yes.
Valley?
Yeah, yes.
So obviously you started to go down that road. Meetings weren't enough before.
I've never attended meetings regularly in the
But
past.
in
Ever.
terms of, right, regularly.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that's the road that you were going down, that's what became problematic.
Yeah.
And different this time, what about those pro-social relationships that you need to have? What's your plan in developing that so you have somebody in your life that understands what you're going through?
Oh, I plan on getting a sponsor and being in regular contact with that sponsor.
Going to put a network of people in your life that are in recovery?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, I'm 100% committed to my recovery. I have to put my recovery before anything. If I decide to just go to college and skip my NA group for the night, if I put my college before my recovery and I slip back and start using again, that ruins everything. It's going to undermine all of my progress I have made up till here, and I'm not willing to do that. I love the person that I am today, so I want to continue to grow and help others.
That's something that's really important to remember. That right there. Because people don't come back to jail because of what they do. They come back to jail because of what they don't do.
Yes.
You know that.
Yes.
You've taken tier 2,
Yes,
which
sir.
helps probably renewed some of the things you had learned previously.
Mhm. Yeah.
You're thinking about those things that are different now.
Do I think about things differently since taking the tier 2 program?
Right.
Yes. Yeah. Tier 2 really opened my eyes to a lot of my personal faults. It made me realize that my addiction began, like I stated earlier, as self-medication, and it evolved from there. It began as self-medication to make me help me with depression and maybe get over an event in my life that I just wanted to run from. And it just evolved from there and turned into this giant thing that then had this grip on me and I could not escape. And I've learned plenty of tools to now help me to never go back to my old ways.
What are some of those tools?
Changing my people, places, and things, regularly attending
What do you-
meetings.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by changing my people, places, things?
So all of the people that I used to hang out with in the past, if I continue to hang out with those people, or if I continue to maybe go to the places where I used to use drugs, being in those environments and around those people, those memories of what I have done in the past with those people and at those places, trigger things in the brain, pathways that make you want to go back and do those things again. I can't do that.
So what do you do instead?
Instead, I find healthy alternatives. I'm going to be, like I said, enrolled in college. I am going to be working out. I'm going to be doing a lot of outdoor activities, hunting or fishing. Yeah.
I mean, that's important. And one of the big ones is replacing those friends with people that actually are concerned about your welfare, right?
Yes, sir.
You have no disciplinary reports during this incarceration, and you want to sponsor your mother's house, right?
Yes, sir.
Is there anything that you can think of that you might need that hasn't been talked about when it comes to going back into the community?
No, sir. I think I have everything I need. I have an awesome support system, great people around me, a good mindset, a vision for my future.
Okay. I don't want to go deep into this because this is being broadcast, but have you dealt with mentally and emotionally what you did here?
I have.
Been incarcerated, or?
Yes, I have dealt with it personally, just myself. Upon release, I would definitely like to talk to a therapist or a psychologist. Okay. I have absolutely no problem with that.
All right. I don't have any further questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. So, Mr. Serba, I just want to piggyback on some of the questions that my colleague asked you. In your opening statement, you made reference to your losing your grandfathers.
Yes.
Were those both by natural causes?
Yeah, cancer.
Right. So it's kind of, I mean, when you expect it, I think it hits a little differently. You know, it still hurts, but it's not as painful as losing someone tragically and unexpectedly. So I really don't think that you can compare the pain that the victims may have experienced because of this loss. But I understand what you were trying to say. Just be mindful in that they're two different things. And one of the things that stood out to me in your opening, another thing that stood out in your opening statement was the fact that you said you had an addiction. You know, you ever heard the saying, once an addict, always an addict?
If you are an alcoholic or were an alcoholic, you are an alcoholic today.
So this is something that you'll have to compete with or combat the rest of your life. You know, it's always going to be your fallback plan, especially when things are difficult in life. And I would suspect that your life will be completely different than you knew it prior to going into the prison. So let's talk about why you were using drugs on probation.
Okay.
How long had you been on probation, or were you participating in treatment when you were out there?
So my probation, I believe the duration was 3 years. And I was going to, I believe they had me going to there was a MCCA, which is the program through probation. I did that, and I was also, I believe, during that same time frame at a methadone program.
Okay. Were you on the methadone program? Yes?
Not at this point in time, no.
Not now, but at
When
the time
that
you
happened, when the event
were.
occurred, no.
Okay, all right. And so you were supposed to be participating in treatment, but you were not showing up? Because I mean, I'm just trying to get an understanding of what was going on.
Yes, I believe that I had violated my probation. I might have been a dirty urine, and I feared I would get a dirty urine, so I stopped showing up. It was one of the two. And yeah, at that point, I was just doing my own thing. I stopped going to any programs. I stopped reporting to parole, and that
But
was
how quickly after being sentenced did you start back using drugs? What was the time period?
I would say it was probably fairly quickly, maybe within 4 months. It wasn't a significant amount of time.
And so tell me why the probation wasn't really a deterrent for you.
I believe at that point in time, I was still telling myself lies that I didn't have a problem. I was fooling myself, telling myself, look, you can do this on the weekends. You'll be fine. Like, as long as you go to work, it's okay. I would tell myself these lies and justify my behaviors. But every time, obviously, the drugs get the hold of you. It might take a month or 6 months, but eventually they do.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, now you do recognize that you know your substance abuse problem was problematic, and so I mean, just based on this experience alone, going forward, I would be careful with using words like "I had an addiction," because again, this tragedy happened because you couldn't control your substance abuse. So really quickly, after you committed this offense, you took money from the victim's wallet and you went to a bar.
Yes, ma'am.
Why didn't you render aid? Or why didn't you call 911?
So that day I had no cell phone on me. I had no way to call anyone. There was someone next door at a business or a neighbor that heard the commotion, and he was walking over, and I made sure that I told him to call the police. And I
So
also,
why didn't you stay then? Why didn't you stay?
because I knew that I had my violation of probation, and as soon as they got there, that I would be going to jail, and my addiction wanted me to use drugs again before going to prison. I was
That makes sense.
looking to get a quick fix.
That makes sense. That makes more sense to me than I think you told the parole officer that you knew that you were going to get in trouble, and you saw that they were breathing, and so you kept going. And which was, I was, floored by that statement. But so tell me what injuries your then girlfriend sustained. Does she have any long-term effects from being run over?
Yes, she has issues with her wrist right now. So I believe it's some neurological issues. There might be something pinched in her wrist, so she gets numbness in her pinky and index finger, and that really bothers her. And I believe she has issues with TBI, which would be a traumatic brain injury.
Okay. All right. And I saw in the packet of information that your attorney submitted that you two have spoken since this all happened.
Yes.
And what's her take on your request? Well, your first of all, I saw that you requested a sentence modification, and that was denied just last year. And I'm going to talk to you about that. But what's her take on your wanting to be released early? Does she think that you are deserving?
Oh, very much so. Yes. Yeah, she's supportive.
Okay. All right. And so what premise did you request the sentence mod under?
I don't know exactly what the premise my lawyer used, but I know we were trying to do it. My stepfather is having serious back issues, and they need someone around the house, and they own a business. They need someone to help with the business. He can't do it on his own anymore. We were trying to, yeah.
Okay, all right. So I understand that now. You just wanted 2 years off of your 18 years. Tell me what the 2 years would do. I
It
mean,
would have
because
made
you're,
me immediately
oh,
eligible at that
okay,
point to see you guys, yeah.
okay, all right. One last question and then I'm done. I really do, I see that you really have taken advantage of all the programs that DOC has had to offer. I heard you speaking with my colleague about your substance abuse and what you intend to do when you're released. Um, does Brooklyn offer a Tier 4 program?
No,
Okay, all right. Have you always been housed in Brooklyn?
no, I was at, well, since I was sentenced, I've been at mostly Cheshire.
So I'm just curious to know why you didn't participate in Tier 4. You did the Tier 2 opposed to Tier 4. I know your drug
Yeah,
score is a 3, but
yeah, it was never offered. You had to have a higher drug score. So I did the Tier 2 drug program. And then in addition, after doing the Tier 2 drug program, I spoke with the teacher that did the program, and
Mhm.
I facilitated with him. I went and I helped him administer the Tier 2 program to other groups of people.
Good. That's good. I saw that you did receive several. I've counted 58 pages of support letters from your friends and family. I see that you completed several Bible courses since you've been in there, and you completed the business education program in addition to the carpentry. So you really have been busy in there, and I really do hope that you've gained some insight and some tools to be that you can utilize when you're released out into the community because this crime, sir, was when I read the PSI and it said that basically you intended to do this, I cringed, you know. I just it's very inhumane and I'm happy to hear now though that you understand the magnitude of your actions and that you accept responsibility.
You are trash, Lindsay. You are trash.
So I appreciate your answering my questions. Ms. Chance, do you have questions for Mr. Serba?
Yes, one or two. So, Mr. Server, I listened to your opening comments, and you said that you take full responsibility for your lack of actions. So, if you could clarify what you mean by that, and then I will follow up with another question.
Yeah, so what I meant by I take full responsibility for my actions and my failure to do more. In the situation after this occurred, there was more I could have done. As Miss Berry said, I could have stayed. I could have done more to make sure help got to the victims. So there was more I could have done.
So this is where I have a concern, Mr. Serbia, because the PSI, you told the probation officer that you decided to run over victim one, and you put your vehicle in reverse and went back and hit him, but you also hit victim two. So, you know, you hit both of them, and then you get out your vehicle, you go back, you went and you took money and the debit card from victim one, and then you walked over to victim two. You saw that she was breathing but unconscious. And at the same time, someone heard the noise and came out, and you indicated to call 911. And then you took off and went to the Easy Bar or something like that, Speak Easy Bar, and you were there for an hour and a half. So that is concerning to me because in your conversation with the parole officer, you said that, you know, when you took off, you realized you left your girlfriend. So you sort of went back to get her, but you didn't. You still took off and left her. So that was concerning to me, Mr. Serba. Also, you said you last drank, it was like 8 years ago, but the night of the accident, you went to the bar, and I don't understand how your drug score is a 3 if you had such a serious addiction to heroin. So can you explain that?
Well, the drug score that's administered by DOC. They do that number, but 8 years ago, that drink that day at the bar was my last drink. That was 8 years, just over 8 years ago now.
But when you went into DOC, it
Yes.
wasn't 8, right?
My drug.
Go ahead.
What was it,
I'm
Matt?
sorry.
No, you're okay. Yeah, when I came
I
into
said
DOC,
when you went into DOC, it wasn't 8 years ago.
yes, it was. Yeah,
Well,
I went to the day after this occurred.
Right, but it wasn't 8 years ago that you had your last drink.
Ms. Chance, he's saying that since he was been in the facility, that was the last time he took a drink. Not 8 years prior to the offense occurring. Is that right, Mr. Serba?
Yes,
Right.
ma'am.
Okay. So, I appreciate the fact that you have taken, the Tier 2 program and the OASIS program and, the carpentry and all of that. I would have liked to have seen you taking the Tier 4 program. And I noticed that you are on the list to participate in the MAC program.
Yes. They have me on that list for, yeah. That's for, it's something, it's a number, I guess you can get put on there so that when you are released, they release you with like a Narcan, just certain items so that, yeah.
So,
I'm not planning on doing methadone or anything in here.
Yeah. So the other concerning factor was, in your opening comments, you did not talk about a relapse prevention plan. It wasn't until my colleague, Mr. Cole, questioned you in detail that you did say that. And for me, that was an important factor that you did not say on your own. So for me, that was concerning.
Okay.
And I noticed you also had your license restored.
Yes.
Okay. Well, Mr. Server, you've certainly taken most of the appropriate programs. I still say Tier 4 would have been more appropriate for you because then it would have addressed your relapse prevention plan when you go back in the community. But I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Chance. Mr. Serba, our questions are done, and we're going to turn the hearing over, to our victim's advocate, Mrs. Hamlet Williams, for victim input. Please don't interrupt, just listen. Thank you so much. Good morning, Mrs. Williams.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, panel. Thank you for having me. I did hear from, both victims in this case, the victim's daughter for victim number 1 and victim number 2 as well. Victim number 2 left me a voice message so I can support what the inmate stated in regards to her being in support of his early release on parole. Victim number one's daughter sent a statement, and it reads, I write this letter to plead with you not to release Stefan any sooner than he was sentenced. His charges were reduced already. He had an opportunity to leave that day, and he returned to murder him. He deserved all the time he was sentenced to, and not a day less. I know my father had a past, but that doesn't make his life any less valuable. Stefan has a past also, and he's lucky to get an opportunity to live his life. My father does not. I have had 2 children since my father's death, and I cry often thinking about all the love he is missing out on from them. At the time of his death, he was getting his life in order and starting a business. He had written a will a few weeks prior, leaving all that he had to St. Jude's Medical Center. He was such an awesome father to me, and we had a great relationship. He was literally my best friend, and I could tell him anything, and he supported me through it all. I have suffered so much from this loss. I never felt pain like this before. It was truly unbearable at times. I couldn't be left alone for 6 months following his death because the grief was so intense. I had to attend therapy and be put on an anti-anxiety medication to be able to get through the day-to-day. Watching my family suffer as well was gut-wrenching. Please, just let Stefan finish out his sentence. He's lucky to be getting released at some point. My father is never coming back. God bless. Sincerely, daughter of the victim. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Williams. Okay, so I think we all would agree that victim number 2 is very gracious, and that is definitely a blessing to Mr. Serba, but rightfully so. I can also appreciate victim 1's daughter in her position. So we appreciate the victim input. Give us a few minutes, sir, to talk about your case, and we will deliberate and give you our decision. Mr. Cole, what are your thoughts?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and of course, victim input is important here, and when we lose somebody, can understand the things that people miss out in life.
Mm-hmm.
That's why before we even heard from victims in this case, it's the tragic nature of what happened. Reads through the whole file. Mr. Serba has come into DOC, has addressed his substance use addiction problems through Tier 2, through meetings prior to the courses that he's taken with plans of doing it in the community. I heard fellow board members talk about Tier 4, which would have been a good program, but is not offered in either Cheshire or Brooklyn.
Right.
So often you have to make do with what you have.
Yep.
So that's important. I think one of the telltale signs when somebody's turning the corner and entering recovery is what they do with others. And tutoring others with GEDs is an incredibly positive thing. I saw the certificates of appreciation from Addiction Services for Mr. Serba co-facilitating, presenting in the Tier 2 programs after he went through. I think one of the other things that is incredibly positive is, you know, the recidivism goes down when education goes up. And the commitment to school, the evaluations, while Mr. Serba's been in school, are excellent. He's doing very well. His carpentry vocation, vocational development there. He's also achieved excellent ratings, as he has with Tier 2. He has no disciplinary reports. When it comes to the instruments that we use to look at recidivism, he rates out low, moderate in a couple of different in a couple of those different tools, with criminal attitude and behavior being one of the things that's cited in one of those tools. And if I'm looking at offender change, I've definitely heard a change in attitude. Obviously, through incarceration, I've seen a change in behavior, which is important in looking at this. One of the other things that's here is a flat sentence and supervision in the community to provide support while we're transitioning is incredibly important, especially in cases involving substance use and other things, so that something's there and the offender's able to see a parole officer or probation officer during the time period, so that they can continue to check in with their release back into the community. As planned when it comes to school, and he voiced and understands that even though his right now there's a conflict between his college classes and the NA meeting that's offered at the facility. He understands that there are several NA meetings in the community, several 12-step meetings in the community. So if that's the case with college classes that he enrolls in when he comes out here, there is the opportunity to go to other meetings that fall within a time period that he can attend. Wants to sponsor to his mother in Oxford, and based upon all of the things that I've mentioned, I would support his parole in this case.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pohl. I agree with much of what you have said. I mean, in terms of suitability for Mr. Serba, I do believe that he does meet the criteria. However, the nature of this crime is so very tragic. And while I can appreciate all the efforts that he has put forward to turn his life around, the nature of this crime is too much for me to approve, to say I support his discretionary parole today. So, and while I can also appreciate the information shared from the victim, that makes it may feel a little bit better in terms of at least she's surviving and she's still living with her injuries and she's gone on with her life, and so that makes that provides some sort of I guess a peace of mind that she's still able to live her life. However, the fact that this young man tragically killed a man and walked away, which will never change, is very daunting. And so just based on the nature and circumstance of the crime, I would not be able to support discretionary parole today. Again, in terms of suitability, I just want to be clear. Suitability, yes. The nature of the crime, very, very difficult to overlook. So I definitely wouldn't deny him until 2033, which is what I show his estimated release date to be. But I I would entertain him returning after a little more time is served. So, Ms. Chance, what are your thoughts?
So, Madam Chair, I do have to say, I agree that Mr. Serber has done well. He has not had any DRs, and he has taken all the appropriate programs. But I must say, I was just concerned had Mr. Serbia acknowledged the real truth about the day of the accident. I would have thought more about, really believing some of the things that he has said today. I do know that there's a changing attitude and behavior, but again, of concern to me was not being truthful about how this incident occurred that resulted in the death of victim one. And in his opening comments, I was concerned that he did not have a relapse prevention plan that he spoke about. And it wasn't until my colleague, Mr. Cole, questioned him that he verbalized it on the record. And so, despite that, he is suitable because he has completed appropriate programs. I feel that due to the nature and circumstances of the offense, that I would not be in favor of discretionary parole today. However, I would support a rehear date for Mr. Serba.
Okay. And we realize that there's not really much more for you to do in there, Mr. Serba. But I would suggest that you continue working on yourself, sir. And Ms. Chance, I honestly would. He is not eligible for parole until June of 2025. And I would have him come back in June of 2026, 1 year from now. And that would give him still quite a bit of time on supervision should another panel decide to grant his discretionary parole. So that's a little over 15 months, is it right?
Yeah. I would also like to see Mr. Serber actually write out all the plans that he has for when he goes back in the community in the form of a relapse prevention plan. And I say that because Mr. Serber was on probation and was not attending his treatment program. So I would like to see him have a really good relapse prevention plan, which he mentioned some of the things that he would do today, but I would actually like to see him have that down on paper.
I think that he really does seem to have a handle on his addiction. I mean, we know that there are drugs in the prison and he hasn't been using any in there. But I do understand your concerns, Ms. Chance, and I hope that Mr. Serba is listening. So I'm going to make the official motion with regard to Stefan Serba 417251. There is a motion to deny discretionary parole for the nature and circumstance of the offense. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All those
Aye.
opposed?
No,
Okay, so the record will reflect that Mr. Pohl is is in favor of your early release, sir. We're going to rehear you in June of 2026. Just continue working on yourself, sir. We understand that you're overcoming the nature of this crime will never change, but I do believe that this is so serious and that a life was lost that it does warrant continued incarceration. So I appreciate your time and effort, and we wish you all the best.
No, thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
I appreciate
You too.
it.
Thanks.
All right, so let's unpack this. And thank you, Holly and Sir Richard, for teaming up in this spreadsheet, providing the articles. Now, these articles are so full of ads, I'm just going to read them to you or describe them to you. But what happened in a nutshell is that, first, this guy had a long record in running with the law. He's on probation. He's given a 3-year sentence for something in 2014, all this crap, failure to appear, first degree, possession narcotics, resisting arrest. They give him 3 years probation. Now, on that probation, he does this. He does this where what happens is that he goes, okay, I'm jumping all over the place, but he goes to fix a car for this man who's a friend of his. And he goes with his girlfriend to fix that car. Now, something happens where the man pulls a gun on him and his girlfriend. He pulls it on both of them. Now, this lizard humanoid jumps in his truck, reverses his truck, running over the man with the gun and his girlfriend. Now, had he stayed there, waited for the police, and explained to the situation, he wouldn't have gotten an 18-year sentence. But what this lizard humanoid does is he gets out of the car, calmly walks over, sees the man that he's killed, sees his girlfriend who's pinned under the car. Both her arms are broken and she's pinned under the car. He takes out this man's wallet, takes the cash, walks to a bar, gets a couple drinks, and plays video games. There is something very wrong about someone who can do that. And I am glad that Miss Chance was there and Miss Chance called it out for what it was. She said he was not being open. He was not being transparent about what happened. And it was like Miss Berry, I don't know what she's saying. She's like, oh, okay, I'm glad you were being, And then Mike Paul, forget about it. The guy, we've seen him deny a few people recently, which is a shocker because I don't know, he doesn't deny people. There's something very wrong, but it's an ideological thing. He really believes, like deep down, that everybody should get a chance, kind of like no matter what. And no, not everyone gets a chance no matter what. This man is still dangerous. If you think he's going to get out and live a normal life, you're crazy. Like, this is not a normal person. There's nothing there. There is no empathy. It's watching the parole hearing, the guy is like, and there's nothing. And the idea that his girlfriend says through a text message is okay to release him, that means nothing to me. And it should mean nothing to the parole board. When I hear that, I hear a defeated woman, a victim who could be at risk of being victimized by him again. And no, you need, as a parole board, to be intelligent enough, to have a high enough IQ to make sure that you protect her from him. You cannot have someone leave you to get killed by a gunman, and then on top of it, run you over and leave you to die underneath the car. You cannot. Sometimes you feel like you're living in the Twilight Zone, but he will be back. He'll be back in like a year and a half. And I plan on being back as well, and he'll show up in the return of playlist. It is crazy how fast time flies. Um, we're already covering hearings from a year ago now in the return of playlist, so check that out. And with that, I'll let you go.
I write this letter to plead with you not to release Stefan any sooner than he was sentenced. His charges were reduced already. He had an opportunity to leave that day, and he returned to murder him. He deserves all the time he was sentenced to, and not a day less. I know my father had a past, but that doesn't make his life any less valuable. Stefan has a past also, and he's lucky to get an opportunity to live his life. My father does not. I have had 2 children since my father's death, and I cry often thinking about all the love he is missing out on from them. At the time of his death, he was getting his life in order and starting a business. He had written a will a few weeks prior, leaving all that he had to St. Jude's Medical Center. He was such an awesome father to me, and we had a great relationship. He was literally my best friend, and I could tell him anything, and he supported me through it all. I have suffered so much from this loss. I never felt pain like this before. It was truly unbearable at times. I couldn't be left alone for 6 months following his death because the grief was so intense. I had to attend therapy and be put on an anti-anxiety medication to be able to get through the day-to-day. Watching my family suffer as well was gut-wrenching. Please, just let Stefan finish out his sentence. He's lucky to be getting released at some point. My father is never coming back. God bless. Sincerely, daughter of the victim. Thank you.